Was there any issue with the nature of the promise of oral?
I think that oral is in fact underhyped. I think that
it's underhyped.
Yes, I think that this ability to save the Fourth Republic from the path that we are on, we haven't sufficiently understood and communicated that well to the people. Now, a lot of the times when we're having the conversation, it seems that our attention about oral is driven, and we talk about Attorney General, on the prosecution. But the investigative work is what we haven't sufficiently talked about. Our capacity to be able to unravel white-collar crime, financial transfers into jurisdictions like Barbados and others by folks. We haven't been able to unravel that. I haven't seen an audit of all state institutions, MMDAs, all of them, to show procurements that were made in terms of, we know whether we went through the proper procurement channels, whether we had value for money for all of them. I do not believe, and I was in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I've been a civil servant before. And I know that every value chain of every expenditure of government, right down to the caterer who is bringing food here, there are corruption across the entire value chain. So we have a bigger problem that is so ingrained in our system as a people that it is not, let us not make less of how, everywhere you turn, corruption is there. Even in terms of the prosecution process, I have clients where prosecutors will tell them, I need to file a paper for you. Come and pay 1,500 cedis. When you don't pay in terms of filing cases and criminal cases. So every aspect of our society is so engulfed in corruption that we cannot belittle it. That has no saying as to whether or not I am particularly pleased as to the state of where we are in terms of where oral is. It is not just, again, the Attorney General focus is not just about we have to take people through due process. It is about the extent of seeing, okay, what is the investigative capacity that has been increased vis-a-vis oral? What is the investment that have been made in connection with prosecutorial capacity vis-a-vis how we fight with oral? What is the law reform that we have brought? Kofi was talking earlier about RICO laws and racketeering and all of that, and be able to recognize organized crime. What legal tools have we brought in place? What is the lifestyle audit law and framework for how we do that? All of these things have not been put in place. When we're talking about even the court systems, I have been in court, and in so many cases I am defending, where you go before a judge, you take one witness for 1 hour. They say that the next time you come back is in a month for another 1 hour. 3 months. Then you're telling me that you're going to bring all these cases. Forget the 1,400 that have been arrested for galamsey. Yeah. You're bringing them into the same existing court structure without any increase in the capacity of the court to be able to handle that. So there's the infrastructure of oral that I think is still missing for me, that hasn't been fully fleshed out. It's not about the number of cases. So I have not seen the administrative build-up that reinforces and reassures that capacity is being dealt with. The questions about, the previous administration and folks who were being prosecuted, and then they used technical delays to be able to frustrate the process for 8 years. We knew this before we got into, before the government got into power. So what has been done differently? So if you're coming to prosecute all these things, and I don't doubt your commitment, and I don't doubt your understanding that we have lost so much on corruption. But then when I see that in terms of the infrastructure of our justice system, it hasn't changed in any way, then I'm doubtful whether or not you sufficiently understand the problem or you're just being naive. So for me, there's an element of naivete, or that you're not resourced enough. So perhaps that's the question. It is.
I think you've agreed with me.
No, then for me.
So it's not about the system for speedy justice delivery.
So the bulk of the work around oral has to be that system.
Yes.
And I have expressed disappointment with the preparatory committee.
I agree with me.
The reason why I was disagreeing with I like the idea of putting in place a preparatory committee. I had assumed that their mandate would be dealing with those questions of institutional, legislative reform ideas about how, okay, these are all the problems that will haunt the process. How do you deal with it? It then became a letterbox for people to bring their complaints to. So the value of what the preparatory committee should have been doing is all the roadblocks that were going to challenge oral in the way forward. And how then do we make proposals and hit the ground running to reform the infrastructure of our criminal justice system to allow for more speed in terms of what people want to see.
So you want to...
a final point first.
Right.
I do not take away the fact that the fact of legal vacation in itself would influence people's perception as to whether or not there's heat on oral. Because the fact that the court can, up and leave from the end of July and come back in October, meaning that people are not going to see anything within that time stretch. And so when the poll is being done within that time stretch, obviously the sentiment is that, what is now happening? Because everything seems to have died down in terms of the conversation. But if there was investigative capacity, and we are seeing the number of people even within the time the courts are on vacation, being arrested, being brought before, new charges being prepared and filed. Throughout all this process, then we'll then be like, okay, even when the courts are not there, we are seeing a lot of momentum around this. So I still think there's time to go back to the drawing board in terms of the capacity we need to put in place, the diagnosis we need to make. I hope that we have an emergency conversation and dialogue within the security institutions and the prosecutorial agencies, and even in terms of civil society, in terms of this is the new approach, this is the strategy, this is how we're going to reform law around these things. The conversations around, the parameters around recovery, non-prosecution-based recoveries. What is the conversation point around those? Was the first time it was brought into the public, the government lost credibility around the before matter. So before you get into that kind of conversation, you need to be able to workshop some of these ideas in terms of this is what we are thinking, this is what the difficulties around are going to be, this is where we are going to be able to offer people deals, these are the people we are hoping that will testify against others. All of that infrastructure has not been revealed. All I see is business as usual. I don't see anything in terms of how the administration of justice is being done, which is different from the Godfrey Dami years and now. Nothing has changed infrastructure-wise.
See, and you use the word deals, and we did our own small survey. People's understanding of the deals alone is different from what the law definition of deals is. You probably use for.
No, I think so. I think so as well. I mean, to be fair, and I must say that Fiavin's point as well was carried and then also kind of made people apprehensive. Already we are very apprehensive when politicians promise us that they are going to prosecute each other. So we already come a historical, skepticism that in fact they are not going to scratch each other's back. So you already have to build with that confidence gap that the people have in terms of the alacrity with which politicians will deal with themselves, and that that you have to. Throughout all of this, the only thing that can make oral successful is building public trust and gaining a mandate from the street. That people are eager about it, people are believing in it. Even that influences the court's attitude to it. Because if the courts see, a strong drive towards something, they align with the executive 98% of the time. But then if it seems that, things are becoming lax, well, they don't treat it themselves with any particular sense of urgency.
So the expectation would have been, and Prof, I'll come to you briefly, the expectation was that instead of starting with the oral prosecution, there should have been addressing the problems,
structural
or challenges within the justice delivery system.
I think so as well. I think so as well, that within the justice delivery system having been dealt with. And also we have to have a number of measures. Listen, one of the mistakes we make as a people is that we look back on the PNDC years, we look back on the AFRC years, as if there's nothing to learn from. Some of the most innovative legal instruments, laws that were passed within those systems, those eras, are things that we should have learned from in terms of how we deal with oral. There are parts of it that we should have considered, okay, which aspects of this would be good for commissions of inquiry which are televised? Because oral is also about attitudinal change and societal ethic. That if people are seeing in terms of commissions of inquiries that are televised, if I was president, I would put oral on display on national television. The people should see how much loot that we are talking about. The people should see the kind of mess we are talking about across several industries, complemented with the investigations that have been done, complemented with the prosecutions, complemented with the number of private practitioners we are bringing on board, the special counsels we are appointing, like, Martin was suggesting about that appointed, that you're sorry to lead investigations in terms of this particular deal or that. So if there was seriousness and we saw this as an existential crisis, our approach to it would determine how we deal with it, I would say.